Let's be consistent.
Welcome to The Key to Consistency. I am your host, Rakia Collins, and on today's episode, we are going to be exploring the relationship between family and consistency. I am so excited to dive into this topic today because, of course, all of us come from a family of some shape, form. Our family could be great, could get along very well, and sometimes we have those moments of, this is my family, But hopefully from today's episode, you feel like you've learned something that you can action on in your own family. And so when we think about the role that consistency plays in our family lives, the first thing I want to focus on is going to be consistent communication, right? And so just like if we were to take an analogy, just like you have your home and your home has a foundation, communication is really the cornerstone of family and family unity. It's really the thread that kind of weaves everything together. It's an environment that allows us to be able to trust, understand, love, and flourish. And so if we don't communicate with one another, especially with the individuals that live in our homes, it creates a very tense environment. And I want to be clear, I'm not just talking about communicating with them just to say, hey, I spoke to you. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Like not that type of communication, but to actually share with one another insights into our lives. And I know, especially if you have teenagers, that could be interesting because it's like, they're going through hormone changes and things of that nature. And the communication piece may not necessarily be there. But I've personally learned in my life as I've gotten older, the importance of making sure we truly build that family connection in the home. So when we think about connection and communication and how we can do that consistently, this may sound crazy to some of you guys, but I recommend scheduling regular family meetings. These should be really time where each member of your household can feel heard and they can feel valued. And doing this practice over time should really foster an atmosphere of respect and of growth and really encourages people to share what's really on their heart, right? Whether it's a concern about the family, whether it's their aspirations about their futures, whatever it is, right? We want to make sure that for every member in our home, we are actively connected with them, making sure that we have family time and quality time is, of course, outside of communication. Are you consistently dedicating time as a family? Do you set aside intentional time on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis to go and walk in the park together as a family or watch a movie together as a family or have a family dinner, right? And I know that these may be things that are not as common in today's generation where it's like, hey, you get your food and you go in your room and you do what you do, right? Or you sit at the table with your phone. There are certain things that I know are pretty old fashioned, but I will say that they worked. Right? And they worked for a reason because when you have that natural human interaction with someone that you're close to, you begin to rely less on the virtual world that we're seeing so much of nowadays with VR and with Roblox, with Oculus and all this type of stuff. And you kind of go back to the real root of family. And I want to be very clear. I'm not shaming technology. I think that technology is amazing, but technology is not a replacement for human connection, for feeling heard and feeling welcomed in your home. And I know that for everyone, they may not necessarily feel that way. You may be in a home and in a situation where it's been a toxic environment and it's not new. And it's going to take more than just a family meal, right, to get things on the right side. And I think that that's okay, right? That's a part of family. Family family's not always going to be this cookie cutter thing that you see on TV. It's not always going to be, let's say, if you know, because you watch old TV shows, like a Leave It to Beaver episode, right? Where there may be an incident and then by the end of the day, everything is great. Or like, the Andy Griffith show where you have Aunt B. Like, it's not going to always be that way as much as we like it to be. But what I do love about those type of shows is that there is a level of open communication, right? There is the intention of, I'm going to sit down with you and we're going to talk about this, right? I can remember some pieces of like an Andy Griffith episode where they were in like the kitchen and then Aunt B like brought out food on like the table and it was like Andy and of course, his son Opie, and all of them were just like sitting there at the table and just enjoying dinner. And that type of stuff is just so rare nowadays. But I would encourage you that if you're struggling with your family and it's something that's really eating you up inside and you want to fix it and you don't know where to start, outside of just personally enjoying food, I would encourage you to talk about it over food, right? Talk about it over dinner. And why dinner? Because food generally helps ease an atmosphere, because when things get awkward, you can always turn to your plate, right? And people are just in a better mood when they're eating good food anyway. So I would encourage you to take small steps to have that consistent, effective communication and really make sure that outside of that communication, you're really carving out time to intentionally spend time with those that you love. Quality time not only is, one of the 5 love languages, it really is the language of connection. When you carve out time to spend time with someone, it says, I care about you and I'm prioritizing you. Right? If I were to go back to the example earlier with like walking in the park, we're not walking in the park and I have my phone and I'm texting as well while we're walking in the park, right? Because now somebody 5,000, 10,000 miles away is more important than the person that's right in front of you. And I get that that is a lot easier said than done. It is hard, especially in 2023. It is hard to break away from these devices because we get so much dopamine from them that it's hard to break ourselves away from them. But I would encourage you, for the sake of spending more time with your family, even if you start off and say, I'm going to only do one walk with my family a week, or I'm going to do one game night a week, or one family meal a week, and we're going to just sit and learn and talk about each other and our lives, you'll be surprised how many people live under the same roof and do not know the people that they're living with. They don't know their struggles. They don't know what they care about. They don't know what they don't like, right? They just don't know because we don't spend time with those that we love and care about. And so when we think about what is going to be the ultimate result of this consistent communication and consistently prioritizing spending quality time with one another, well, of course, one of the intangible things that we're going to notice is that your trust is going to deepen, right? When I feel like you have the want and the desire to want to understand my perspective and my lens about life and what I'm going through, it deepens the trust and the emotion that I feel about you, right? There are a lot of things that we don't necessarily do that we should do, and it results in miscommunication and misunderstandings. When you sit down and talk with someone, misunderstandings can be clarified, right? That person might have said, good morning, right? And you might have thought they had an attitude with you, but they might have just had a bad or a rough morning, right? And so when you sit down and truly talk to someone, those types of things can be cleared out and the air can be clear, right? Versus you walking around thinking that someone just has an attitude with you and they're mad at you. They may not be mad at you. It may have nothing to do with you, right? I'm learning in my life that a lot of things in life, from like in regards to other people, have nothing to do with me. This person may have just not had a great day, right? This person may have just been going through it, and I just happen to be the brunt of that, right? And of course, that's not me justifying their behavior, but all I'm saying is, if it is a misunderstanding, consistent communication is something that can help clear the air when it comes down to things like that. And of course, healthy relationship is going to be established and continue to grow when we practice consistent communication and consistent quality time. So I would encourage you to make sure that you prioritize or at least think about scheduling a family meeting, right? Making sure that you consistently try to set aside time for quality time this week, right? To make sure that you are intentional and that these intentional moments that you're going after are really going to become the building blocks for a harmonious and a connected family dynamic, right? It's going to be amazing. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be outstanding. So hopefully you can take that as an action item. Today's episode is brought to you by the merch shop at thekeytoconsistency.com. I would encourage you to visit our merch shop to see if there's anything that piques your interest. One of the easiest ways to be consistent is to be visually reminded that you are on a mission. You are going to be consistent. So whether you pick up a phone case or you pick up a t-shirt, we have something for you. Again, that is www.thekeytoconsistency.com. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Awesome, guys. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you all about is going to be how we can nurture family values and traditions. So when we think about consistency in shaping our family lives, really outside of, consistently communicating with one another and spending quality time with one another, there are also values that we should be working to instill in the next generation. Values are not only things that are communicated verbally, but they're also ingrained in our family's identity in the way that we carry ourselves as a family unit. It's like the daily rhythm of your home that speaks louder than words, right? It fosters a sense of purpose and unity. And to give an example of this, it's to say, if you have for me and my family, we don't necessarily put as much emphasis on Thanksgiving, but we value getting together for Christmas. We value, and it honestly has become a family tradition of ours to have an event where the day before Christmas, so on Christmas Eve, on that night, we'll have like a seafood bash. And then Christmas Day, we'll have a big breakfast. And that big breakfast generally happens at 11 a.m. because we've stayed up all night the previous night. And that breakfast really lasts us until we have Christmas dinner on Christmas Day. Right. And so that's just an example of a tradition that we have year over year. We value that time to be able to get together, all of us, my sisters, my brother, and just really come together with our parents and just enjoy and bask in making those memories. Right. My little brother and my nephews, they will have on their matching Christmas outfits. They have a new one every year. And so those are the types of things that we personally just love about Christmas. It's a tradition of ours to do that year over year, right? Your tradition, when you think about it, is really your family's story. It's what's going to be here when you're no longer here. It's the thing that's going to speak loudly about the type of family that you have, whether it's the holiday celebration that I just mentioned, or if it's a monthly movie night or a weekly game night. Those are the types of things that keep your family, and maybe not even just your immediate family. It might be your broader family as well, but it keeps you guys and everything connected and really kind of acts like the glue of the family. When we think about family values, as crazy as this may sound, for me, right? I'm going to just speak for me. I didn't realize that peace was a value in the sense of your home life, right? Because I remember having someone over in my home and they were like, man, it's just so peaceful here. It's just it's never anything going on. Even when, the person said, even when I hear you talk on the phone, Rakia, it's just a peaceful conversation. You're laughing, you're having a good time. You're not gossiping about anyone or anything. It's just a nice time and it's just so peaceful. And I didn't think about that until I was around someone in their space and you hear them, and you hear the gossip, and you hear the negative words going back and forth, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, wow, like it's like, do you value peace that much to have peace in your home and to have people know you and more importantly, know your family? This home, peace rests on this home. They may not be perfect. They may have their issues and their misunderstandings, but by and large, when I walk in here, it is going to be a loving, peaceful atmosphere. Right? And I hope that you can really allow that to just sit with you, because if that is something that you want to be known for, I hope all of us, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you want to develop and live in a space of just pure peace, right? Not a toxic environment. Again, as much as it depends on you. And that, not to go on a tangent, guys, you know, I like my tangents, but I was reading the word the other day and there was a verse that stood out to me. It says, in as much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And that verse will probably sit in my heart until the day that I die, because that is so true. As much as it depends on you, right? If it depends on you, let me choose not to have peace with you. Right? That means I may not always get my way, especially when we think about it in a family dynamic. I may not always get my way, but as long as you're not doing something that's going to endanger me or endanger my life, you may just have a different preference. That's fine. Right? As much as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And so, of course, outside of the family values and the family traditions that we want to make sure we build because they speak to our family, we want to think about, and I keep going back to this because it's something that is so simple yet so tangible that we all could do. It's a family dinner, right? The family dinner can really be that platform for each of you guys just to share what you're thankful for. And it doesn't need to be Thanksgiving. I know we see that a lot on social media around Thanksgiving time. People come together and they say what they're grateful for. Do that on a random Tuesday in July. You know, do that on a random Friday in September. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be something that is done around a major holiday. You should always be grateful. Gratefulness and gratitude should exude and flow out of your heart, because it really cultivates a spirit of appreciation, right? When we think about things that are passed down from generation to generation, one of those things that we want to make sure our people in our family can pass down to their children are the traditions and the values that we set up. How cool would that be for your niece or your nephew or your granddaughter or your grandson to be in an environment where we just go around and say what we're grateful for every single Wednesday when we have family dinner, our grandma's house or at our auntie's house. We just do that every single time. What is that going to do for them, especially living in the world that we live in now, where we're intentionally practicing being grateful and being in the moment and loving others and loving people? Like, what is that going to do for them? That's an amazing tradition to be able to pass down to the young people of today's generation. So, of course, when we think about outside of the traditions and the values, I've been giving you guys some examples, but let's be realistic. These are my examples. They're based on my preferences. So what I would encourage you to do, as awkward as this may sound, is just ask your family, right? Ask your family what they would like to do, what all of you guys can do on a weekly or a monthly basis. And if you don't want to just pick an idea, you can just ask everyone to write something down on a piece of paper, throw it in like a hat or a bottle or something, shake it up, and then pick the ideas, right? And the first idea, all of you guys are going to do it, irrespective of if it's something that you want to do or not. Remember, the goal is to be and have peace. So if this person, they put in the hat, well, I want to just go for a family walk on Sundays and I want to do this with you guys. And you don't like being outside. You don't want to be outside. You are anti-outside, right? But for the love of your family, I would encourage you to swallow your personal preference and put your family before how you feel. because in doing so and in being grateful that you even have a family that wants to go on these Sunday walks, you will find that this could be the foundation where you begin to slowly break the mold and kind of open up and have deeper conversations, have more meaningful conversations, because you're now engaging in an activity that while you don't necessarily like it that much, it's not your thing to do, it's their thing to do. And when people do things that they love, they just tend to be more cheerful and they tend to be more open. So I would encourage you as one way to kind of kick things off with your family and make it a game and say, hey, once a week, we're going to put our stuff in this hat and we're going to do whatever we draw out of this hat. And whatever we can, we're going to make it a family tradition to do these things, whether again, is that walk in the park, or if someone says, hey, I like to go ziplining. Ziplining may not be something that we can do consistently time and time again, but it's still worth doing once because you know someone in your family wants to do it. So I would encourage you to make a tradition out of what you can make a tradition. And if it needs to be a one-off activity that the family saves up for and does because this is what little June wants to do, then hey, we'll do what little June wants to do. And so, of course, outside of the values and the traditions, I would be remiss to not mention intentional celebrations. I know that we celebrate milestones like, oh, it's your birthday or holidays, but we don't necessarily create our own holidays, right? Like we don't necessarily, which for me, again, guys, tangent, is so interesting because everybody has a day for something. There is hey, it's National Girlfriend Day. Hey, it's National Donut Day. Hey, it's National Leaves Fall Off a Tree Day. Like, LOL. That's not a day, guys. But I'm saying, like, if everybody can have a national day, you can have a National Williams Family Day, right? And it doesn't need to be a big family reunion. It can be, again, the members in your household. Every year, this is our day. This is what we do. This day is important to us. And what do we do on this day? We go and we grill and we have a kickball game or we play baseball or we do something because this is our day, right? This is our family day. Whatever that looks like for you, right? That I would encourage you to do that. Why? Because it one gives you the ability to create family memories, and it really begins to build anticipation and strengthen those family ties. I will tell you, I am older. I shouldn't say old. I'm older. I'm 28, and not even this past year. I think maybe in June or July of this year, I was in my mother's front yard with my mom, my little brother, my sisters, their significant others, and we were playing egg toss. We were literally tossing an egg. I haven't done that since I was a child, but you can imagine the fun, the laughter that came out of that, right? Because the egg, like tossing an egg is so simple. It's so simple, yet so fun, right? And so you can just imagine that the amount of just family memories and the bonding and the joy that comes out of things like that. And so I would encourage you guys that if you do not have a space or have not created the space for an intentional celebration or a family day, I would encourage you to do so. They are super fun, super riveting, and there's just so much that can be done. So I really would encourage all of you guys to choose or create. If you don't have one to choose and your family doesn't have values or traditions, decide to be intentional about not only establishing new traditions and new values, but being consistent with those new traditions and values. Again, this podcast is about consistency, and we don't want to just set it and forget it. We want to set a plan, involve our family members, and from that point, just let the journey of consistency begin. So I hope that you found something from today's episode that will encourage you, that you can take back to your family and that you can implement today, right? Even if you are young, if you're 19, if you're 17, if you're 20 and you want to take this stuff back to your family, go ahead and do it, right? One, I'm sure they'll probably look at you like, why do you want to do this? But ultimately, it'll really lead to a tighter, stronger family. So I would encourage you to do so. And of course, as we leave off today's episode, I do want to end with a Bible verse. So this verse comes from Ephesians chapter 6, verses 1-3. And it says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and you may enjoy long life on the earth." Given the theme of talking about family, I think that Bible verse is perfect and is a great way to end today's episode. So remember, guys, consistency breeds mastery and mastery transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of The Key to Consistency. Wherever you are listening to this podcast, it would mean everything to me if you could rate it, review it, reach out to me on Instagram. Would love your feedback, would love to hear anything you like, anything you don't like. Please feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit from it. And until next time, bye guys.